Okay, so here we are for Fourth and Gold, episode 13. Going to look back to week 12 games and kick straight off with Jay. Looking at your performance of the week for week 12, who are you going with?
Yeah, so a lot has happened since we last spoke. I'm going to go through a few just quick honourable mentions.
Yeah.
I'll start with Trevor Lawrence. What a statement performance that was from him. I think someone had heard all of the buzz and hype around CJ Stroud in the division and turned around and said, "Watch this." That was highly impressive. Another honourable mention is going to go to Joshua Patrick Allen. That was one hell of an effort to take down the Eagles. He had to play perfectly to win that game. He was just slightly off perfect. He ripped them to shreds in the passing game. Just the pure will in his running. He should have had a lot more sacks than he did. I guess if I'm going to be hypercritical, the one thing that stopped them from winning the game was the misunderstanding between him and Gabriel Davis on that final play. They had to settle for a field goal. That if they were on point, they win the game. But man, that if you've got a problem with Josh Allen after that game, I can't help you. That was a hell of an effort.
Yeah.
And final honourable mention goes to the Philadelphia Eagles kicker, Jake Elliott. I mean, that might be the greatest kick I've ever seen. 59 yards in heavy rain, in high winds, really. And the game on the line, ultimate clutch moment. He aimed it wide left, and it just crept in the right stick. So great effort for him. But yeah, my performance of the week, we're going to go back to Thanksgiving Day, and it's going to go to Jordan Love. Now, I want to say maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago, I said on a Step It Up that Matt LaFleur, you've got to let this guy go. You can't learn anything from screens and short passes. And from the very first play in this game, they went into attack mode. First snap, 50-yard bomb to Christian Watson. And that just got him going, I think.
Yeah.
Now, the Detroit Lions defense, it's not a good defense. We know that. But what I would say is Love doesn't have, the greatest. Well, we don't know yet. He's got a very young supporting cast around him. And I think what we saw in this game really was just let him loose and let him show that he does have the ability to be a quarterback in this league. He made a ton of great throws. I mean, I said it at the start of the season, and I may have a clown emoji on my face in a couple of years' time. But I do think that this guy has the talent. I said that, since the Trevor Lawrence draft, only Trevor Lawrence has more talent than him. I might be wrong now because of the emergence of CJ Stroud. But outside of that, I stand by what I say. I think this guy has more talent than a Brock Purdy, at least in terms of throwing. I do think that he has more arm talent than a Jalen Hurts. But what he doesn't have compared to those two guys is the stacked roster. He doesn't have a Deebo Samuel. He doesn't have an A.J. Brown. It's not going to look like this every time, but I say keep playing this way. Let him make his mistakes. But most importantly, let him throw, because he showed you in this game that he can throw, and he made a lot of difficult throws. These aren't just wide open passes. He made a lot of high pressure, small window throws, sidearms. Like he has got, I'd say, more layers to his throwing than some of the guys I mentioned. But yeah, performance of the week goes to Jordan Love. I've got the stats here: 268 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks, no fumbles. QBR of 90.6, passer rating of 125.5. Performance of the week goes to Jordan Love.
Yeah, that's a great shout. He was actually one that I was leaning towards for my performance of the week. I've been one of his harsher critics this year, and he was proving me right most of the year as well. He's justifiably being criticised, but the last couple of weeks I've seen something that I hadn't seen at any point. And you had been saying he had it for a number of months, not just weeks. And yeah, against Detroit, that was probably the first Green Bay game I've actually watched all the way through this year. And was it the defense? The defense made it a bit easier for him, that's for sure, especially at first play of the game. What was it, like a 52-yard completion to Watson? But there was a bit more poise in him and managing the game really well. So I do think Green Bay could have a potential franchise quarterback going forward. I'm not going to put that as my performance of the week, but I felt I had to give him an honourable mention. I'll give out the criticism when I feel it's due, but I'll also give the credit where it's due too. I was also considering Pittsburgh Steelers, not just for that performance and for the victory, just how they keep grinding out results. They're 7-4. How is this team 7-4? They're going through disarray on offense. They fired their offensive coordinator. Just Tomlin, season after season, just beggars belief in terms of what he's able to put together in the win-loss record. Because if you look at what you see on the field, you would never think they're a 7-4 team. And again, they're playing a weakened Bengals, but they still had a lot of weapons on offense. Defense stepped up. They actually looked like they were moving the ball better on offense. And the Bengals D is not terrible. They're actually, in my opinion, they're well above average defense. So fair play to them. But my performance of the week, you touched upon it, is Trevor Lawrence. I've got to do Trevor Lawrence. It was a incredibly important game, hugely important game, because that basically decided who is in the driver's seat for the division. If the Texans won that game, they would have taken over the number one seed in the division. Their schedule going forward is considerably easier than the Jags. And I think that would have been it. They would have won the division. Now they're 2 games behind. And again, you look at the numbers and what Lawrence produced. I noticed in the first few drives, he had so many 3rd and longs, and he completed on so many of them. You look at his 3rd down efficiency. He was 7 of 13 on 3rd down, and most of that was in the first half and compiling that score. And it's not just Lawrence. It was obviously the whole team played pretty well. Didn't like the call not to take the free at the end of the game, end of the half. That would have made it a 2-score game, and you get the ball back. Obviously, easy to say in hindsight. If they would have got the 7, then it would have been a masterclass decision. But I would have taken the free. But he ended up, again, playing against CJ Stroud, who everyone's been raving about, and rightly so. And again, at the weekend, played amazing. But Lawrence was 23 of 38 for 364 yards. Got more yards than CJ Stroud, which is probably the first time in well over a month that a quarterback has thrown for more than CJ Stroud, probably longer. And it was just his way of saying, you're good, but I'm here. And just giving him a reminder, as you mentioned, that you've come a long way, but you've got further to go to come and compete with us. I thought the offense could have done a bit better on their final drive. See, once they turned the ball over on 4th down, I think it was, or it was an interception, weren't it, for CJ Stroud right at the end? But it was like a short punt, if more so than an interception. That should have been the game. Then, so they gave the ball back to them so quickly. I would have liked to have seen them get a first down there, move the ball, but it was a pressure moment. They got the job done. So for me, Jacksonville Jags and Trevor Lawrence, performance of the week. monster game. The occasion has to count for a lot, just like the Jordan Love one against the Lions. Huge game, and yeah, two great performances for me in week 12.
Rob, can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
I think I've said a lot over the last few weeks. There's something missing with the Jaguars' offense. Watching that game, I think it's to do with play calling. Honestly, like they can be, they're very good, and yes, they do have their moments to be aggressive. But I feel like sometimes with Pedersen, he gets a bit too in love with the run game, like Shanahan.
Yeah.
And I just want to say to him, look what's in front of you. Look what you're seeing from Trevor Lawrence. Let him loose.
Yeah.
Give him all. You can trust him. Like, this is a top 10 quarterback easily.
Yeah.
When he is on, yeah, he's
got the weapons. He's got the weapons in Ridley and Kirk. Like they are two very, very good wide receivers. And yeah, I actually I agree with you because they've got the skill players.
Yeah.
I feel like Pedersen should be the right OC, or not obviously head coach, but he should be the right person to call the plays. Something's missing on offense, and I don't think it's on Lawrence. I like how he's progressed this year. There's still more to come. That's the exciting thing. I don't feel like he's peaked yet. He's hit the ceiling. I think there's still a lot more room for improvement. So we'll see how it goes. But with Etienne, with Kirk, with Ridley, with Lawrence, and with Josh Allen on defense, like he was having a game. Man, what was it like? He had 2, 3, 4 sacks. I don't know how many he had, but he had 2 sacks very close to each other, from what I remember. And yeah, great to watch. Great game as well, by the way.
Great
game. Yeah, really good game to watch. Shame that Thanksgiving instead of the Cowboys game, which was a bit over before it started. But yeah, good stuff. So performance of the week. So now let's go on to step it up for week 12. Who are you thinking should have stepped it up, Jay?
So yeah, again, I've got just a couple of honourable mentions. I've got to say it. Sorry, Dan Campbell. That was amateur hour at times last Thursday. Fake punting on your 30 looks great when it works, but you're in the game. Like, you don't need to do that. You were down 9 at that point. Punt the ball and hope your defense makes a play. I know they weren't playing well, but it wasn't just that. There were a couple of other 4th downs where it's early in the game. You're allowed to take your field goal. You had basically a 9-point swing with 2 early field goals and the fake punt because you gave up automatically, maybe even a touchdown on that drive. It was unnecessary. And then obviously when you get to the 4th quarter and the game was not quite close enough, you were then in another 4th down where you couldn't kick the field goal. And had you kicked those field goals, I know it doesn't work exactly that way.
Yeah,
but sometimes,
get the points on board.
Answer. So I had to mention him. The other person I'm going to mention is Bobby Slowick, the Houston Texans OC. The final drive started with 3 minutes on the clock. So I'm a bit puzzled why they went into hurry-up offense. You've got 3 minutes. You've got CJ Stroud, who is a big play monster. There's no logic to going into hurry-up because with CJ Stroud, if it's successful, you're going to score way too early. Way too early. And what they did with that was you ended up giving the Jaguars the same look, the same personnel over and over again. And of course, what do great teams in the NFL do? They adjust. If you're giving them the same look, yes, you might be running a different play, but it's not going to be that different. They ended up finding you out. You ended up in a 4th and 19 situation.
Crazy, yeah.
And you're kicking I think it was a 58-yard field goal. You could. I think that if you just slowed it down, maybe it's a bit hypercritical because this is year 1 for this OC. But it's a good learning moment. I think that recognize the situation you're in. 3 minutes is a long time. This isn't 40 seconds left against the Buccaneers where, yes, every play matters. Like every yard counts.
Yep.
3 minutes is a long time.
Yeah.
So had to mention Bobby Slowick. But I'm going to step it up in a different direction this week.
Okay.
I'm gonna call step it up on Panthers owner David Tepper.
Yeah.
This week, David Tepper fired I think it's his third head coach in 4 years. I don't like what I'm seeing from this owner. I think that he has created a very toxic environment.
Yep.
And like some of the things you're hearing, like when he came out of the locker room on Sunday, he was heard shouting F-bombs. And of course he knows the cameras are there. So I feel like that was very, very staged. But one thing that I found totally disrespectful was in the press conference this week where he referred to head coach Frank Reich as Frank Reich. Now, I don't know if it was intentional. If it was intentional, I don't understand why you have to disrespect the man's name. Like it's a name.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it was pure ignorance, I don't know if that's even worse, that you don't even care enough to know your head coach's name. I mean, it's a dreadful look for this owner. I don't personally think, bit of a spoiler alert, I don't think they're going to get a bump from the head coach firing. I actually think the players like Reich. I don't see it as a Reich lost the locker room situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think this step it up is it's like a step it up, and to do that you need to step back. Let the football people make decisions. Let the football people do the coaching.
No continuity. What's going to happen, right? No continuity whatsoever. You keep changing coaches, different ways of playing. The team looks disjointed, and it's run like a disjointed organisation. So, what do you expect to see on the field?
What do you expect? And just final point: Frank Reich wanted CJ Stroud, but you wanted Bryce Young. It's early days. That's not looking like a good decision, but we'll see. But don't double down now and make more bad decisions. If you want to move on from your general manager, whoever comes in next, let them do the job.
Yeah.
Let them see out their vision. And whichever head coach comes in next, it's not an attractive place, I don't think.
No.
But whoever comes in, let them build something. You can't build it in a day. And without the trade, the draft assets now that you don't have, this is a long rebuild, and you need to give whoever's in next the time to do it.
Good stuff. Yeah, that's a great shout. There was a few actually step it ups I was considering for this week. Could easily, and maybe I should have done, the New Orleans Saints. Thought that was an embarrassing result. The numbers don't look terrible, but the performance did look terrible. The numbers could be are often very misleading. The Falcons were there for the taking. They've been a very poor team the last month or so. Saints haven't been much better, but that's a divisional game. You've got to do better than that. It's everything's up for grabs in that division, and you've lost to the Falcons, which, I wasn't happy with what I saw, but they didn't win my choice of step it up for this week, and this is the first time I've put this person in my step it up this season, and it's probably a bit long overdue. I know you've definitely put him in it. Is Bill Belichick. I had to do it because he is the de facto GM of the New England Patriots. He makes all footballing decisions, and if he was any other coach, he would have probably been sacked by now. Because I'd say this year, the Panthers, the Reich has done better than Belichick has done. at the Pats, you could argue, especially when you look at the pieces they're having to work with and how they've got to that stage. Working with a rookie quarterback, where the Pats have chosen this guy, what was it, 2, 3 years ago? It just looks in disarray. The offense, you've got Matt Jones starting the game. They didn't tell him supposedly until Sunday morning that he was going to be start. Like both quarterbacks were told, like prepare as if you're going to start. So straight away, that tells me preparation for the week isn't great because you need to mentally prepare to start for a game as well, not just physically. So yeah, Mac Jones starts. He actually wasn't too bad right at the early stage, but boy, did that go south very, very quick. Ended up with 12 of 21, 89 yards, and 2 interceptions. And they were bad interceptions. They were really bad interceptions. And I believe he had a fumble. I'm trying to remember if he did or not. He had a fumble as well. But I think it was recovered by the Pats off the top of my head. So then Belichick's like, okay, let's go to the other quarterback. And first drive, he actually did pretty good. They put a touchdown up, and you're thinking, okay, well, why didn't you start with this guy? And then for the rest of the game, we realized why he didn't start. He went, 9 of 14, 54 yards, 1 interception. And I think, no, I don't think he did have a fumble, but he looked poor. And they were running the ball a lot in that second half, and he still looked really poor. So I agree with the decision of playing Mac Jones. I feel he should have known earlier. And I only agree because I feel like he probably is better than Zappi at this stage, and that doesn't say much. It doesn't mean that he's a great quarterback, but Belichick is not doing enough for me. And is this how he wants to be remembered? I don't have much love for Belichick due to his connection with Brady and then many years of not being the team I wanted to see winning Super Bowls. But I've always respected him as a football coach. And I feel like he's tarnishing that name a little bit now. And I don't believe this means, okay, it's 90% Brady and 10% Belichick, because them teams that won the Super Bowls pretty much all had great defenses, which he created. But it was partly down to Brady, not necessarily just what he did on the field, but what he did off the field in terms of the payments he would accept, the cuts he would take, and how he conducted himself. I'm not a Brady lover, as I think we all know, but I respected his preparation for the games and how he was prepared to sacrifice financially. Easier to do when you've got a model, I think, near close to a billionaire wife. So again, money might not be as big of a thing. But yeah, he needs to step it up because that Giants team are not very good. And I picked the Pats to win that game purely because I felt, right, the defense, they're still pretty good for the Pats. They're not the defenses we've seen in previous years. They do have some injuries to key players, which you have to take into account. But they still did an okay job overall. But the offense were just literally, it's like taking candy from a baby for the Giants. It was just easy. And yeah, Tommy DeVito made a few plays when needed and got the job done. And got to see more from Belichick. Overall, it's not something he can fix in 1 week. It's going to come down to the people he has in at the coaching roles, the drafts that they make this year. The problem is you have a couple of bad drafts like they've had. That's not a quick fix. That's going to take a while to get back, and I don't think he's going to have that time based off of what we've seen, which is a shame. Will he go? I'd like to see him go into a defensive coordinator role somewhere, like him at the Browns, for example. I'd love to see him with that Browns defensive front. It would make some
49ers.
Yeah, 49ers, Browns. There's been talks of the Giants. I can't see him taking a step back and obviously taking orders from a head coach. But I think his head coaching days are numbered. I think he's the old school generation, which I love, the old school generation. But this current NFL, the rules aren't set up for his style of play. You need to be high octane. Look at your Gannons, look at your Petersons, you look at your Sirianni, whoever you may be looking at there, the younger generation, McVay, Shanahan, etc. All of these, LaFleur, younger generation, all offense, not defense. There's not many defensive coordinators that are being successful outside of Tomlin. It's the only one, I would say. And that's all credit to him. That's why I'm just so shocked and why I had to give the Steelers a mention in Performance of the Week, because I could put them in most weeks. I love watching them play. I've got a soft spot for them. But yeah, going off track here. But that's Bill Belichick, step it up, buddy. You've got to do better, or time to walk off into the sunset and call it a day, I think. So that's performance and step it up. Let's go into our top 5 teams through week 12. So Jay, where are you standing currently with your top 5?
So my top 5 is the same as last week, but it's in a different order.
Okay.
So at number 5, I have the Dallas Cowboys. Since we last spoke, they took care of business against the Commanders, a team below 500. And last night, for the first time this season, they beat a team above 500. Hooray!
There you go. Just about.
Boys, just about. Yeah, this is one of those teams where they have it, but I'm just not sure if they can reach the highest mark. They're going to beat a lot of teams in this league. But when they went down by 8, I thought to myself, this might be classic Cowboys. It's a close game and they can't get the job done. But in fairness to them, they've come through their first kind of close game. And that is a good experience for them. All credit to Dak Prescott, who is playing well. And it's not just against bad teams. He did play very well against the Eagles as well. I think he has reached a higher level than his previous peak, shall we say.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to give him that. I think they've won 14 games at home in a row now. So that's quite a run. And comes to town next week, the Philadelphia Eagles, which is a massive game. I will just shout out one player. It is CeeDee Lamb. I feel like there's been a coming of age for this receiver.
Big time.
It is a receiver. He was my favorite receiver in his draft. That has now been vetoed by the emergence of the best receiver in the NFL, Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb has now kind of proven himself that I am a number 1 receiver. Like, there was question marks about it, but I think he's proven now that if you give me the load, I'll deliver. You can trust me. And he's done it in big games as well. He had the drop on the 4th and 2. I didn't love going for that in the first place, but outside of that, very good last night. Gave Witherspoon a lot of trouble. Some sort of double moves that he ran. Witherspoon was in a bind, and it's not often you can say that about Witherspoon this year.
Yeah.
So they are a difficult team, and they will be difficult in the playoffs. But my question is, can they reach that top tier level still? That is my question against the very, very elite teams. At number 4, this may be a bit of a surprise, but they've dropped 2 places. It is the Baltimore Ravens. It's certainly not because of their defense, who I think are one of the better units in the NFL. I've got some concerns on offense now. I think it's something that you've spoken about, Rob, for a few weeks. I'm just seeing a little bit of inconsistency now, not just in the play calling, but also in the execution. It's a difficult one. And there were two moments in the Chargers game where they got the first down, but they got a bad sort of marker that made it 4th and inches. And it was like they were really nonchalant about it, that like, oh, we'll just go for it and we'll get it anyway.
Mm.
There was no thought to kind of just say, let's take a step back just for a second. Maybe we got the first down. Should we just check if we got the first down and we can challenge this? It was just like, oh, okay, well, we'll just go for it. And on both occasions, they didn't get it. It's just that lack of attention to detail that concerns me a bit, because the offense is stagnant. Like it's been like this all year. They'll, sort of what I was saying about the Jaguars at the start of the year.
Mm.
They will have some electrifying phases, and then they'll have phases where it's like they don't even know what offense is.
Yeah.
It's crazy. There was one call in the second half as well. I want to say it was 2nd and 16. Now, Lamar hits the receiver for 15, and it legitimately was 15. And so it's 3rd and 1. They hurry up to the line to run a wide receiver screen that it was dropped. I mean, it was obviously it's a difficult play for the defensive back to make, but that could have easily been a pick 6. And I just sat there watching the game feeling confused. Like, we need 1 yard. Why are we throwing it 10 yards sideways to go 1 yard? Like, I'm a bit surprised by what I'm seeing. And I'm not calling out the OC. I think Todd Monken, it's year 1, and he needs some time to kind of develop this offense, and he's done a lot of good things. I do think that Lamar was already an elite thrower, but it's almost like Todd Monken is forming an offense and a sort of identity to Lamar's throwing that hasn't been there before. It's always been kind of ad lib and based on Lamar's talent.
Yep.
That is a process, and I accept that, but it does give me some concern as we approach the playoffs. We're talking about the Ravens being, right up there. But do I trust them on offense? I'm not sure I do right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Lamar is a unicorn, right? Like, in terms of his throwing, it's not going to be the conventional way. So you are going to have to live with certain things not being the fundamental quarterback that you would expect. But sometimes that does get him in trouble. Mm. And one aspect that I sort of looked at on Sunday, having watched another quarterback earlier in the day, was Lamar's footwork. Sometimes when he's sitting in the pocket, sort of going through his reads, he can be a bit flat-footed, which is a bit surprising considering this guy is amazing on the ground. But sometimes when he's going through his reads, he can get in a bit of a mess with his footwork, and it leads to unbalanced throws, which leads to incompletions, which can stifle drives. I mean, I'm gonna say it. I watched CJ Stroud earlier in the day, and the emphasis that he puts on his footwork is much. It's developed, beyond his years. Even when he's rolling to the left or rolling to the right, he's got so much emphasis on, I've got to get my feet right because I could throw at any minute. And I'm not saying that Lamar needs to be CJ Stroud, but it's just an aspect that I feel like, maybe he does need to give a bit of attention to.
Need solid foundations. You're not going to be accurate consistently if you don't have a good foundation to throw off of. So.
Exactly. The defense is great, but if they have games like that, the defense will get gassed.
Yeah.
Then they're not going to be able to, do it for 60 minutes. And, I know they weren't out there for 60 minutes, but because the Ravens were unable to sustain drives in the second half, they were looking a little bit leggy at the end. Mm. So there's some things to work on. This is still a great team.
Yeah.
They're going to dominate a lot of teams. And when the offense is on fire, which it was pretty good at the start of the game, they are very hard to stop. But some things to work on. And just one shout out. I didn't have his name to my head last week. I want to shout out the defensive tackle, Justin Madabuke. This is an absolute fridge of a man. He is a mountain of a man, and he is fast. You won't see him on the stat sheet, but he makes an impact for this team.
Raptor.
Yeah, so moving on to number 3. They stay at 3. It is the Kansas City Chiefs. They took care of business, got off to the worst possible start against the Raiders. But it's what you said, Rob, earlier in the year. There seems to be a developing trust in Rashee Rice. Now, he had I think it was 100-plus receiving yard day with a touchdown. He had some fumbles, so that there's stuff to clean up. But maybe, just maybe, the Chiefs could be turning a corner. I don't know. We'll have to see. But it seems like Mahomes does trust Rashee Rice. He does trust another guy in spots as well, and it's Justin Watson.
Yeah.
And I know this because whenever I've got a Kelsey prop on, I think he's given it to Kelsey, but it is in fact Justin Watson. You're not going to see, I'd say by and large, you won't see high volume with Justin Watson, but he does go to him in key moments. If Justin Watson can give Mahomes key moments, if Rashee Rice can give him just enough volume without mistakes, it's gonna give Kelsey back. Like, it's gonna activate Kelsey again. Because right now, if I'm playing the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm doubling Kelsey the way that the Dolphins did it, and say, you're not throwing to him. You have to win a different way, and it will be very difficult. Yeah, I mean, my man Marquez Valdez-Scantling, somehow he managed to outdo his performance last week of no catches for no yards. He got 1 catch for -1 yard this week. Please step it up. It's a bonus, step it up. Please, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I hate to call out the money, but 3 years, $30 million. Come on. We've got to do better. And when I looked at the over-under, last week's over-under was 15.5. And if you applied that to every game, he was 5-5. That is embarrassing.
That's a $10 million a year wide receiver on a 3-year contract.
Very, very poor. So there's definitely some things to work on. I still think the Chiefs' defense will give them a chance. If Rashee Rice and Justin Watson can keep this level of trust with Mahomes, we can see an activated Kelsey, and maybe, just maybe, the Chiefs can keep this season alive.
Whilst you're talking about MVS quickly, Jay, so based off of that 15.5, if you work off of that for the whole season, so he's getting paid $30 million over 3 years to average around about 270 yards a season.
Wow.
Tyreek Hill's had that nearly in one game a couple of occasions this year. Maybe they should have worked a bit harder to keep him.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I know they won the Super Bowl last year, but they didn't win the trade. I'm sorry.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
So at number 2, rising 2 places, is my San Francisco 49ers. As I was saying, we've had 15 sacks since the arrival of Chase Young. Much needed improvement in the pass rush. Nick Bosa has come to life. I now don't think that Nick Bosa is in the class of a Myles Garrett or a TJ Watt, but he's still pretty damn good. Um, Charvarius Ward, welcome back. That was a hell of a job that he did on DK Metcalf. And we saw last night, DK Metcalf is a handful. Poor Deron Bland.
Wasn't partying like he was on Thursday night, was he? That's for sure.
He was not. And Ward had, early on in the game, he misjudged one that Metcalf caught that went out of bounds. And I'm sitting there thinking, uh-oh, I've seen this story before. But after that, Ward locked him down and got in Metcalf's head, because there was a number of times where Metcalf, he was going to make the catch, but it's almost like he got a bit jittery about where Ward was, and he had a few drops. So that was encouraging to see. I think the most satisfying would be the word I would use. Thing that I took from last Thursday was the Seahawks paid their respect to Brandon Ayuk. They gave him the attention. And what did we see happen as a result of that? Christian McCaffrey went crazy. Deebo Samuel went crazy. Deebo reminded everyone of just how dangerous he is if you allow him to be. And I came away from that game saying, when this 49ers offense is healthy, this is the best offense in the NFL. As great as the Dolphins are, this offense has more layers to it. This offense can not just beat you, destroy you in so many different ways. Absolutely bully. We've got McCaffrey. We've got the understudy of Elijah Mitchell, who is very good at hitting the hole. But you look at the receiving core. Deebo Samuel is more than a receiver. You can use him in many different ways. Brandon Ayuk leads the league, according to Pro Football Focus, in separation, ahead of Tyreek Hill. He is one of the great route runners in the NFL. And he'll run you in knots. And we haven't even talked about George Kittle, again, the all-purpose tight end. Maybe biased, but I do believe that he is the best tight end in the league, because you see the numbers of the 49ers running attack with and without him. That speaks volumes enough. But this guy in the passing game now, since Brock Purdy's arrived, he is a fantastic receiving tight end as well, if you can utilize him. And of course, I haven't even said anything about Brock Purdy. The throw that he made to Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is surrounded by 4 different Seahawk defenders. Brock Purdy is accurate. That is one thing I will say. Now, big question will come this Sunday. It's a big game for Purdy. Will it affect him knowing that this is where his career could have ended? Because that elbow injury is not easy to come back from. We will find out. And I look forward to talking about that game a bit later on. So at number 1, for the 4th week running, it is the Philadelphia Eagles. There's a song by, I think the band is called Imagine Dragons, and it effectively is the Eagles theme song. It's called Whatever It Takes. And the Eagles just seem to do whatever it takes week in and week out. Now, what I would say is in the last couple of weeks, they've kind of treaded on that line a bit further than maybe they have done in the past.
Yeah.
A lot of things did go for them this week, namely the Josh Allen, Gabriel Davis miscommunication. If he throws the corner out, the game's over and the Bills win. The field goal, the epic field goal, that is tough to make. That's like once in a million almost.
Yep.
So, all credit to the kicker. AJ Brown potentially had a fumble in overtime. If it had been called a fumble on the field, I think it would have stood. Personally, I think it was too quick. Like I do feel they got the call right, but it's just these margins. Like they could have called it a fumble on the field, and then in the replay review, they wouldn't have been able to have turned that one over. I don't think.
Not indisputable. Yeah.
And I just want to touch on Jalen Hurts. So Jalen Hurts and this Eagles team starting just a little bit to remind me of Russell Wilson and Seattle in the early days, in that Jalen Hurts can have, up to maybe 3 quarters where it's not great, but they've got a good team that can keep them in it. And Jalen Hurts can then turn on, and he is built for the big moments. And I will say that I feel like I've watched Jalen Hurts more than the average NFL fan, because I watched a lot of his games in college when he was at Alabama before he got transferred to Oklahoma. And he's not going to get fazed by the big moment because he's already seen everything. That stretch at Alabama, he won national championships. He lost national championships. He lost a very dramatic one to my man Deshaun Watson with seconds left. He was benched. He then came in, he was benched for Tua. Tua was then benched for him to come back in. He's won championships he's seen so many different things in his career already that he's built for the NFL moment. Like, he's not going to be phased in overtime because it's, all or nothing, because he's already been in so many all or nothing moments in his career. The one question mark with the Eagles, though, is this pass defense. We've seen the likes of Sam Howell go for 300 yards against them. That's a stat. This past Sunday, Josh Allen shredded them, ripped them apart. And the fact that Gabriel Davis, of all people, went for over 100 receiving yards kind of shows you there is a bit of a problem there. So it'd be interesting to see how they sort of rectify that, because we are 12 weeks in now. So they are the best team. They will have to win on Sunday, though, to remain as number one in my top 5. The 2 best teams in the NFL meet on Sunday, and I can't wait.
It'll be a game for the ages on Sunday. Okay, so now going on to my top 5 teams through week 12. I was similar to you, Jay. I was so close to putting the Cowboys in at number 5. I have seen, I believe, a progression of the Cowboys, but I can still see that gremlin in that organization. The Eagles game they should have won, but that gremlin showed its head and they didn't win, even though Dak Prescott played a very clean game. That's the concerning part for me, because I don't know how often I'm going to see him play games like that. Even when they won against the Commanders on Thanksgiving, there were a few passes to Ferguson, a few passes to CD Lamb that he skied a little bit, just wide open, and he missed them, or made it a harder catch than what it needed to be. So it's still there. So I've got them in at 6. I haven't got them in at 5. The defense last night, for example, at times this defense looks like it's the best in the league, but then they go and put up give up 35 points against the Seahawks, who have some good pieces, but I don't class them as an electric offense. So I have concerns. They've beaten one team, and it's probably one of the worst teams at 500 or better, if there is such a thing. But they are a team that when they play very good teams, the Seahawks, they tend to get manhandled a little bit so far this year. So I've got them in at number 6. Number 5, I'm going with Miami. Reason being is the addition of Ramsey has definitely made them better on defense. The secondary's stronger. He plays just as we've always known him to do, back from when he was at the Rams and before that at the Jags. My concern is the injury to I can't remember his name. Is it Phillips?
Yep.
Ligament, his ACL, I think he did on Thanksgiving night, which is never nice to see when it's not a non-contact injury.
MetLife again.
Yep, they got to do something about that ground. It's shocking. It's an absolute shocker. But it was a cold game. Not as cold as what it will be soon, but it was still not a warm weather game. And both wide receivers turned up. Waddle and Hill. Mostert is playing very well. Love how he's playing. And you imagine they're only going to get better once A-Chain gets back up to full fitness. Hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later. His knee clearly isn't right still, hence why he didn't play last week. But that offense is just so electric. Even in the cold, they were good. Tua, he's got them mistakes in him. I don't think we're gonna get them out of him. Not many quarterbacks play this game and don't have mistakes. So we can be quite harsh with our expectations. We expect all of these guys to be elite straight away and no
turnovers allowed.
Unfortunately, the gaps that these guys have to throw the ball in at that elite level are small. And not everyone, every quarterback has turned the ball over. It's going to happen. But do the good plays outweigh the bad plays? And overall, this year, they have. I love the work he done off season in terms of learning how to fall. With I think it was through judo training, if I remember right. He beefed up a little bit, which he needed to take them.
Yes,
and that's what I want to see. I love seeing players that work on improving every year, and he's done that this year. He's made that progression, and I believe he'll do the same thing next year, whatever that may be. He feels he needs to progress. So I do have them as my number 5. I don't have them higher because I just feel they don't have the know-how of doing it come playoff time. But if we're looking purely where they've got to right now, they're great to watch. The defense is doing pretty well. And they're a matchup nightmare for most teams. So they're my number 5. Number 4, I've gone with Kansas City Chiefs. I was very, very close to doing what you did and having them. I think you had them at number 3, if I remember right. And I can't disagree with you. You know, I view the Ravens as they're my number 3 team, by the way. The Ravens have the potential to be the best team in the league. Although 49ers and Eagles have the same potential. They on their day, they are a matchup, sorry, is a better way of wording it, for any team, and they can beat any team on their day. And I actually feel if the Ravens and the Chiefs played each other both at full strength and both playing their best, I think the Ravens win. But that's a really hard one because Mahomes is just a ridiculous X factor. But as we've seen in the Super Bowl a few years ago, it doesn't matter if you don't have the other pieces around you playing well. But that would be a great matchup. I love how the Chiefs came back against the Raiders. That could have got messy for them very quick. It started off very messy. And they showed that championship pedigree. They showed the know-how, which the Miami Dolphins don't have right now, of coming back. I think it was 14-0 down against the team that are riding the crest of a wave a little bit right now. Divisional game, never easy. And the Raiders, probably the only team in the division that have actually caused trouble for the Chiefs. So in the Mahomes era, or made it more competitive in a way. And we finally saw, like you mentioned in yours, Rice, Mahomes stepping it up. The defense sort of doing it again. It started off a bit shaky, but they came through in the end. But I did see some improvement on offense. They've since week one, they've stuck with Rice on third down plays. He really likes him, even though he's let him down quite a few times this year. He clearly is saying that I'm going to trust you. You're going to make some mistakes, but we're going to work it. We're going to get through that, and you're going to get through this because I know for a fact. And this isn't me knowing it. I think this is what Mahomes is thinking. I know for a fact when it comes down to playing in December and January, I'm going to need you to produce some plays. So if I just give up on you now, we're not going anywhere. So I'm going to keep shoving this ball down your throat until you bloody get used to catching it when it matters. He doesn't need to force it that much to Kelsey right now because we know what Kelsey would do when it comes down to it. But I feel more confident now than I have at any time this season with Kansas. That doesn't mean I feel confident if they play the Eagles or 49ers. Because I could see that being a manhandling. It really could be another Bucks Super Bowl if that was the case, which I hope not to see because I think the Ravens would keep it closer against them two teams than the Chiefs would. And so, yeah, like going on to the Ravens, you hit the nail on the head. There's all year for me that they've seemed quite lackadaisical. They seem like at any game, anyone they could beat like they beat the Lions. Absolutely hammer them, make them look stupid. And I feel like they know that. So do they actually go into a lot of these games thinking we need our A game to win? I don't think they do. And that's not something I associate with Jim Harbaugh. His teams are prepared usually just as good as Tomlin teams. And I hold them to as two of the best coaches we currently have in the league in terms of longevity, doing it over and over again at a high level, not always with the right personnel or the best personnel. But yeah, something isn't right on the offensive side. I love your comment about the footwork as well of Lamar. It's the weirdest thing because you would imagine someone who is as good on the ground of him to have twinkle toes almost like Fred Flintstone going bowling or something. But he, yeah, he just doesn't seem to throw off of a good platform consistently enough. And that's when you notice the pass rush getting to him, that's when you see the mistakes come in, which most quarterbacks do. But because he doesn't have sufficient footwork at this stage, everything gets magnified. So I don't see them being any higher than 3 right now. But again, them and the Chiefs are 3 and 4. I could put them either way. I'll put them both at 3.5 and make it easy. Number 2, and I tell you what, this is really close for me. I really wanted to put Eagles at number 2. I couldn't, so I've gone with the 49ers. But I don't think they will be there for long. The first, I think, maybe 5 or 6 weeks. I think they lost in week 6, didn't you, to the Browns? So I'm not sure when it was. But first 5 weeks, I had 49ers number 1 team in football. Amazing defense, secondary some issues, offense electric. No one was even getting close. It was ridiculous. Then you had a 3-week span where, okay, I tell you what, I think that 3-week span was the best thing that's ever happened to this team because people were writing off Purdy in the season with weren't even halfway through the year and he was getting written off. I think that got a little bit of what coach doesn't like to use this us against them, us against the world mentality. I know for a fact Kittle is playing off of that a lot. Hype man Kittle, I'd love to play with him. He looks like he is a great teammate and he'll always back Purdy. They've got a great connection, it appears. You would know that better than me. But I think they learned other ways to win. And that's what I liked. They've gone through these bad times. They had that bye week and they watched tape where it's going wrong. Since the bye week, they've been caning it. They've been on another level. They've been the best team in football since the bye week. For me, it's not even close. It's not even remotely close. If we're looking after the bye, they're number one. I don't have a 2, 3, or 4. Eagles would be number 5. It's that big of a gap for me. But like I said, with the 3 losses, you don't win any trophies yet. There's a long way to go. I love the Chase Young trade. This is basically doing exactly the same as what the McCaffrey trade did last year. Gives another boost to you had a strong offense last year, didn't you, when you had the McCaffrey trade? A lot of people said, do we need him for what we gave up? Based off of what I've seen of McCaffrey, is there anyone further? We had this conversation, actually. He's got to be MVP frontrunner. I know that it shouldn't be MVP. It's quarterback is how they word it, because if which I think is wrong. Yeah. But look at what McCaffrey brings on the ground. Look at what he brings in the air, and what he does on a consistent level. I can't think of any player I've watched who performs as consistently in a position that gets injured so much. Even if he was a wide receiver, we would be shocked at the same level. And that's nowhere near as explosive in terms of bang plays, getting hit every time at the line of scrimmage by 350-pound D linemen, linebackers, athletic as hell. And he's a different level. And then, like I said, you add Chase Young to the mix. That defensive front is scary. No defense wants to come up against that. Against Seattle, absolutely embarrassed them. Even though, it's a great game. I remember watching all of that. I had a bet 5+ sacks, and that came in relatively early. I think it was 6 sacks all in all for the San Francisco defense. And this is a team. I just love everything about it. You know, we've said it. I've said it a few times already through top 5 this season. Apart from the secondary, there's nothing I would change about this team. I think Brock Purdy is underrated. People couldn't wait to jump on his back, and maybe we overrated him a little bit before them 3 losses. That's what we do, right? It's a what about now league. It's always been that way. Everyone gets inflated in the moment. But
he's back to being Joe Montana now.
Yeah, now he's Joe Montana.
He was a bum, but now he's Joe Montana again.
There you go. He was never as good as they were saying before the losses, but he was never as bad as what they were saying during the losses. And the important part is Shanahan knows what he is, knows how to utilize that. He's an accurate passer. He's a very, very good manager of games. I talked about Mac Jones with the Patriots earlier, how things seem to be going reasonably well for them and just picks at the most horrendous time. And we've seen it from Dak in the past. We've seen it from so many players. When you look at players that had great teams, like Andy Dalton, when he was at the Bengals, they had some really good teams. He'd have great seasons and then just make really bad mistakes at terrible times. And even Stafford did it back in the Detroit Lions days. I don't see it that often because he doesn't need to. He's got the players around him. So I really like the balance of this team more than any other. And that's including my number 1 team right now by the smallest of margins, which is the Eagles. And I say that because I'm relatively scared, because they've got the best record in football, and I don't think they've played remotely to their potential. I don't think they've had an elite game this year.
No way.
No way. Still the best record in football. They played pretty horrendous in the first 3 quarters against the Bills, and they still beat the Bills, who played one of their best games of the season. Now, we saw what the Bills are like when they turn it on, when they played Miami in week 3. They can annihilate a very good Miami team. And I've said this over and over again all through the year. One thing I love about Hurts, he's a born winner. And he's like, I think I said it was compared him to Tim Tebow, but could actually play the position very well as his leadership skills. And that's one thing where Tebow was great at, and Hurts is equally as good. He's a leader of men. You see him in the first two quarters, in the first half last week. He was running for first down. You see he can't run properly. He's hurting. He's taking injections, that's for sure, to deal with the pain. When your O-line can see your quarterback busting a gut to keep these drives going, just give your O-line a buzz, give your D-line a buzz, right? Let's go out and match his enthusiasm, his intensity. And he's never about him. They never win because of him. It's always because of the other players on the team. He'll never want praise. You know, there are a lot of players in this league that want praise and they're all about them. He's not that guy. And you mentioned it as a great comparison with Russell Wilson back in the Seattle days, where all of he could play like dog shit for three quarters. And then in the last quarter, all of a sudden, Joe Montana 2.0 has turned up and he's as accurate as anything, can knock a fly off someone's helmet. And they win the game. And you feel that with Hurts. They've got the personnel that are just scary good. Secondary is a huge concern. I'm surprised it's still this bad. I expected this to be ironed out well before now. I'm just thinking, are they maybe sandbagging? Like, surely they're not sandbagging. Surely they're not holding plays back. But my biggest regret is that this Sunday's game, it is Sunday, isn't it? You guys are playing.
It is, yeah.
Isn't going to be a Super Bowl because it should be a Super Bowl. That would be a special Super Bowl. And I think this will be the NFC Championship game if the seeding works out. And the winner of this game will win the Super Bowl, in my opinion. And I can see it being a blowout if it's the 49ers. I think the 49ers are a team where if they catch fire, they will blow out whoever they play. Where the Eagles could still keep it close. Or if they play all lights out, it could still be a close game against the Ravens, against the Chiefs. Looked at the spread this week. I couldn't believe the 49ers are 3-point favorites. And I think it's in Philadelphia, isn't it? Is it?
It is. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Vegas.
And 49ers are 6-point favorites on a neutral field. That's a bit much for me. But I tell you what, I like San Fran to win the game because surely at some point the Eagles' luck has to run out. And this is good for you guys. Maybe let them have it for another few more weeks and use all their luck up. So when it comes to playoff time, they got none left. Can't be never ending. So yeah, it's going to be a good weekend. And yeah, that's my top 5 teams. Miami, Kansas, Ravens, 49ers, Eagles. So yeah, that's that for this week. Now let's go on to our picks. But before we do, where do we stand so far?
Where do we stand? So another great week for all of us. Double-digit wins. We're still rolling.
Good stuff.
I really need to see Michael Irvin's record to see if he still leads us, because he's the only person that I have seen across NFL Network, ESPN, NBC, you name it. We are ahead of all of these experts that are doing this as a full-time job. Remember that we are not doing it as a full-time job. No. And we have got the inside track on the picks. So
maybe we should.
Maybe we should.
And what you got to also remember, whether this is a positive or a negative, we make our picks usually on a Wednesday or a Thursday.
Indeed.
So sometimes we don't have up to date. They make their picks around 2, 3 p.m., 4 p.m. on a Sunday, so they know more about the injury status and things like that.
Exactly.
Maybe I'm trying to give us a little bit more praise, but hey, I think we've earned it.
We have to ride with what we know on the Wednesday or the Thursday. In fairness, Pro Football Talk also make their picks
they do.
On a Thursday, but everyone else has the liberty to do it on the Sunday when, players go inactive, for whatever reason, we can't respond to that. So we're doing pretty good. So Paul stays in third. Okay. He has 111 wins to 69 losses. That's a 61.7% win rate. Okay. Rob, you had the best week last week. Both me and Paul were at 10 and 6. You were at 11-5.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of the game that split.
Jags.
It
Jags.
was Jags. Yes, you're right.
And
So
Paul actually switched with us because he picked the Colts.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
he also made a different one as well. I can't remember what it was, but yeah.
So he now trails you by 4.
Okay.
I believe it was at 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are in second with 115 wins to 65 losses.
Okay.
That's a 63.9% win rate.
I'll take that.
And I stand at first. The gap has closed by 1 to 2.
Okay.
With 117 wins, 63 losses. That's a nice, clean 65% win rate. So all above 60.
We're chasing you down.
Chasing me down. Yeah, just chipping away. Chipping away.
Bit by bit. Good stuff. And we all have one win this week already. I believe we all put Dallas down for the win.
We did. You'll have to take our word for it.
Yeah, although that was a lot closer than I was expecting, admittedly.
Indeed.
But yeah, good stuff. Okay, so let's kick off on the Sunday game. So Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans. Who are you going with, Jay?
Yeah, so I mean the Colts have had a few. I'm not going to say like freebies, but they have played inferior opponents as of late.
Yep.
So their numbers. I saw a stat this week where their defense is allowing 13 points a game over the last 4 weeks, and that got me curious to see who they played. And it is teams like the Panthers, right? So it does make sense. I suppose they beat a Bucks team last week, who kind of are the NFC version of them in some ways. Yeah. So that was a good win. The Titans are not a good team. It is kind of operation contain Derrick Henry and then hope that Hopkins doesn't destroy you. I think the Colts win this game. They did beat them earlier in the season. Granted, it was with Tannehill. It feels like Levis is struggling a little bit. There's not a lot around it. I mean, obviously you could say, well, he's got Henry, he's got Hopkins, but you need more. You need a more well-rounded team around you. It can't just be, well, we've got some skill players, great.
Yeah.
This Titans team has declined severely, I think, and I think the Colts will do enough to win this game. So yeah, I'm riding with the Colts.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. The Colts, even though it's at the Titans, I like the skill set of Levis, or Levis. I don't know how he likes his name pronounced, but I don't think he's yet ready. He's one of them quarterbacks that needed more time. Maybe it's the play calling isn't ideal for him. You would imagine it's perfect having Derrick Henry in the backfield, so it takes a lot of pressure off of him. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be working as well. Now teams have got tape on him, seem to be able to suss him out. He gets some great angles with his release. I really like his arm, his skill level on that front.
More support, more scheme.
Yeah, exactly. The Colts, they got a very good O-line. They've got 2 very good running backs that stay fresh throughout the game. Pittman had a great game last week. And Minshew is quietly being effective. He's doing better than a good job for a backup quarterback. I think I mentioned this year already. For me, he's probably the best backup quarterback in the league.
Easily.
And yeah, even though it's at the Titans, so they will have the elements to deal with. Tennessee will not be a nice place to be playing at this time of year, which for a dome team can be a challenge. That is my biggest concern. But the Indianapolis defense overall is pretty good. Not great, but good enough to deal with this Titans team, in my opinion. So I'm going with the Colts to win. I see it being under a touchdown, though. I see the Titans just hanging around, making it uncomfortable. But that's exactly what the Titans did with the Panthers. The Panthers had the ball back with the opportunity to tie the game up with the 2 minutes left. And obviously the Panthers didn't get there in the end, but that they shouldn't have been hanging around in a one-score game,
Yep.
the last drive of the game. So, yeah, I have concerns. They're in that transition phase, I think, now. He's in the process of trying to create a new team, getting rid of Bayard. So we'll see. But yeah, going with the Colts. Next up, nice easy one. LA Chargers at the New England Patriots. God, well, yeah, where to even start on this one? Who you got?
Can I just say one thing? We are in December now, so it is officially upset season. Expect the unexpected with some of these results, because it's not going to go the way of the favourites. In this one, the Chargers are favoured by 5.5. Their defense played pretty well last week overall. Now, was it bad Ravens or more good Chargers? Not sure. Not sure.
Yeah.
The Patriots are mudded, aren't they? They are in the bin.
They've got a pretty good run game. You know, I really like Ramondre Stevenson, isn't it? The run game seems to work really good, but for how the run game is working, the passing game should be a bit better. But they don't have the quarterbacks. If you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to do anything. Simple.
And I don't think they have the receivers. I mean, these receivers are basic, but they've got Juju Smith-Schuster, who they're basically not using.
Why is he not in Kansas still?
Yeah, exactly. He's not a number one, and he's certainly not a number one on a receiving corpse that looks like this.
Yep.
He's your number 2, number 3 option, and he's a really good number 2, number 3 option.
Exactly.
I have to pick the Chargers. I'm not crazy about the 5.5 spread, though. I wouldn't even go money line with the Chargers, honestly.
No.
You just don't know what you're going to get. As great as Herbert is, as great as Keenan Allen has been, as great as Eckler has been, they can't cover over the cracks of the team, over the coaching. I'm sorry, Brandon Staley, you've lost me now.
Yep.
You're never going to win me back. I want a different head coach to take the talents of Herbert, Allen, Eckler in particular to heights that they can definitely reach. They can definitely reach higher levels. But yeah, this week I'm going to take the Chargers by default. That either the Patriots really suck or they're doing a great job at tanking in the hope that they can land the number 1 pick.
Yeah. Yeah. You look at some games. I remember last week, I was so close to taking the Falcons over the Saints, and I was just like, no, I can't do that. But man, I wish I did. I look at this game and I'm just like, it's in New England, the Chargers, West Coast team coming over to the East Coast in the cold. It's not a good matchup for them because what can the Chargers not do? Stop the run. The one thing that New England are actually not bad at doing. And I've already written down the Chargers on my list, but I'm almost talking myself out of it now, just them last couple of sentences, because I don't like the Chargers in the cold, and I don't like West Coast teams unless you're a championship caliber West Coast team going over to the East Coast that are coached well.
Flashback 2 weeks ago, same spot against the Packers.
Yep, there you go. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going with New England. I don't know why, because their quarterbacks are dog shit. I'm just going to go with my gut on this. My brain is telling me you're a stupid idiot, Rob. But
it's the Chargers.
I'm going purely based off of West Coast team going to the East Coast in December. against a team that can run the ball, against a team that can't stop the run. New England's defense aren't that bad. They're actually a good defense. They're not terrible. The offense is the problem. So I imagine it being a close game. My brain is telling me, right, the Chargers win a close game, but I'm going to fly with New England. I don't know why, because the last time I bet on New England against, actually, was it last week they played the Giants?
It was.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, I'm making the same mistake twice. I said I'd never bet against them again, but hey, it's the first sign of insanity. Let's make the same mistake twice. So sod it. Let's do it. Next up, Detroit Lions at the New Orleans Saints. Who have you got there, Jay?
Wow. What the hell has happened to the Lions offense?
Yeah.
It's in New Orleans.
It is going to be pretty noisy.
Yeah. You want to talk about intimidating arenas to go to? This is one of them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm looking at the Saints and I'm thinking Derek Carr has good moments and he can sustain a really good drive.
Yeah.
And then in the blink of an eye, he throws the dumbest pick six that you can ever imagine.
Yep.
Like this team is now stuttering. Like they should be at least 2 wins better off.
With their players, yeah. Olave last week in the first quarter and a half, he was exploding. And then he didn't get much action in the second half, if I remember right. Yeah, shocking.
They're real. Yeah, it's a really tricky one. And like the thing is, like even seeing Taysom Hill getting out physicaled by the Falcons was odd because it's a team that Taysom Hill has feasted on in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really difficult one because the Lions have lost my trust in a way.
Yeah.
Because that was an awful showing against the Packers. It was also an awful showing 2 weeks ago against the Bears. They got very lucky to win that game.
Yep.
Can Jared Goff rediscover like not turning the ball over? That is a big question mark for me. And this defense has been terrible, like awful.
Yep.
This one really is like who's going to make the least mistakes. And it's not good. You haven't really got good choices here. No. How many mistakes will Derek Carr make versus how many mistakes will Jared Goff make? I'm really, really torn with this one. I've got Lions written down.
Not sure what the spread is. What's the spread?
It's 4.5.
It's 4 now.
Yeah. Wow. I would definitely take plus 4 for the Saints. But I cannot back this Saints team right now. I could see this being one of the upsets this week, but I'm just gonna go with Dan Campbell to kick these guys up the ass, and they will bounce back this week. I think this is it's like one of those where you could ask for better opponents to play this week, but you could get a whole lot worse than this. So
that's true.
Lions in a thriller. I think this will be ultra high scoring. Lions to win.
Yeah. These teams they have a lot of similarities, don't they? They're very, very similar teams. The biggest difference is the New Orleans Saints defense is aging quickly. A lot of their star players are on the wrong side of 30 and Father Time is catching up, clearly. Still good players, but not for a whole game. They're players that need to be in rotations now going forward, in my opinion. Yeah. And it's getting found out by mobile and agile players / quarterbacks. That's where Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Montgomery is more of a power back, but again, he's still pretty agile. Goff, not so much, but the others are going to cause issues. Ridder's not exactly agile, although he does use his legs every now and then.
Mm.
I think Shaheed is out. I know he left the game, didn't he? So I don't
Shaheed is out.
he's out. Yeah, it's just a game that you could put a good argument for either team to win, or for either team to lose, should I say, not win. But I've got to go with the English version. I think that Campbell is going to kick his players up the arse, not the ass, to make sure that doesn't happen again. They got a bit embarrassed on Thanksgiving on national television against the team everyone expected them to beat, that they should have beaten. They gave some stupid penalties away, and I remember the camera panning over to Campbell, and he was like, "Who was it? Who was it?" Like, taking mental notes so he knows who to grill when the game's over, because some big penalties were given at the terrible times. But Green Bay played really well. We can't forget that. They did play well. Detroit made it a bit easier for them. And they're still newbies. They're still like babies at this level of or not this level, at this time of year, being a competitive team. So there are going to be some bumps. I don't think anyone expects them to win the Super Bowl right now. A successful year for them is getting to the playoffs. They are well on track to cover that, although not as easy as they would have wanted to be after Thanksgiving. I think the team is better than the Saints. We'll see what Goff does this year. He's been known to struggle in noisy stadiums. We've seen it before. But the good thing is they can always check down to the run game, and this run game's strong. Gibbs is stepping up. I want to see him get some more snaps. I just feel like they're not getting the ball enough to him at the moment. They're being a bit cautious. But I'm going with Detroit to win.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, Atlanta Falcons at the New York Jets. Who are you going with?
Wow. Not a game I will be watching on Sunday.
No.
Yeah, so this is, to me, this is one of those games where you say to Desmond Ridder, at all costs, do not turn the ball over. At all costs, we can punt the ball, because the Jets have zero offense. Zero offense. Like, they'll make a first down here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But this is one of those games where don't let the Jets defense beat you.
Yep.
I believe while the game was still a game, shall we say, last week against the Dolphins, and I'd say that was up to roughly midway through the third quarter, maybe, or maybe even half time. After that Hail Mary.
Yeah, and that was the offense that weren't on the defense. The defense had what? They put up the points, didn't they?
They put up the points. Like, I was going to say, up to the point where the game was still a game, the Jets' defense outscored the Jets' offense. The Jets' offense put up a garbage time touchdown. Yeah. So the yards and the points that contribute to that mean nothing to me. The Falcons defensively are inconsistent, but they can get the job done sometimes. And so this is one of those weeks where they will not get torched. Like, can they stop the Bryce Hall run?
Yep.
If they do that effectively, that will isolate the passing game. They won't be able to get Garrett Wilson involved. I do think Garrett Wilson has a lot of talent, but come on, look who's throwing to him. Tim Boyle.
Have you seen who's going to be throwing this week?
It's not Joe Flacco, is it? It's Joe Flacco for the Jets.
That's what the reports are coming out. It will be Joe Flacco starting at quarterback. So from what I remember, before he retired, he had dropped off a cliff. He hasn't played for a while.
He hasn't played for a while.
This is going to be, I think it's not going to be good. It's going to be nasty.
So that I mean, he probably will actually be an upgrade, which is crazy to say. But
Manager,
that's
you would imagine.
yeah, that is the floor where this offense is right now. It is basically on its knees on the floor.
Yeah.
So I think it's a case of for the Falcons, lean on your run game if you can get it going. I mean, the one thing about the Falcons is they have an elite physical offensive line. They
Yeah.
should be better in the run game than they have been.
Yeah.
And, they have got a potential superstar at running back in Bijan Robinson. They've got other backs like Algier. I don't know the role of Cordarrelle Patterson
He
these
actually
days.
played a few snaps last week. He actually did pretty well. They had him in. He had a few good runs at running back.
So there you go.
And he was a kick returner. He actually was on the kick return team. I'd like to see him in the slot and at wide receiver a bit more, just with his size. And he's not the speed he used to be, but I've always liked him as a player, as a change-up player. He's a big guy, so even he's just someone that defenders won't want to tackle because you're going to feel that tomorrow morning if you do, and that adds up over the day and over the game, and will make life much easier for Bijan, who in turn had one of his best games of the year. Well, best games at least since week 4 or 5, maybe. And I don't know if that has any correlation with Patterson. That's the first time I've seen where he's been involved a bit more. So who knows?
And the thing is, like you said, if you put Patterson in the slot, just doing that alone means they have to account for him. So even if he doesn't get the ball, Ridder's favourite target, who is Drake London, maybe the attention just drops off him a little bit, just enough. It's one of those games where run the ball, you've got plenty of top tier running backs to choose from to do that. And it's Ridder, make just enough plays, just enough. Don't just take what is there to be had. Don't force anything. Do not. I mean, you could literally find 5 to 6 throws per game that are either picked or should have been picked. Where you're like, that was an ugly decision. If he can avoid that this week, this should be, I'm not going to say an easy win, but it'll be a comfortable win.
Yeah. So
it is. It's at the Jets.
At the Jets.
It's a case of will Ridder fuck the game up? And I am going to say he won't.
Okay.
Falcons win. It's a 2.5 spread, I believe.
Spread is 2 right now.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably be that close.
Yeah.
So Falcons probably will cover.
Cool. So will Ridder fuck the game up? I think he will get very close to, and I think he will try his best, but I just don't see the New York Jets offense being able to do enough. They should be able to be doing more than what they're doing. Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall are both really, really good skill players, and you've got to be asking questions of Nathaniel Hackett. Why is your offense so bad? I get the quarterback has been Zach Wilson, who's not exactly elite, but you should be able to get him in positions to be able to move, to get a bit more from your offense. That's all I'm saying. I'm not expecting him to make them a top 5, a top 10 offense, but at least get them to around the mark, something so they can put up some points to give the defense a break. Just move the chains a little bit. So the defense can keep you in the game. And they can't do it. And I look at this game a little bit like I viewed the first London game, Jags against the Falcons, where I think we all pretty much said that, right, Lawrence, and the Jags play calling was very much to this extent as don't turn the ball over. The week before they did everything possible to lose the game against the Texans, the Jags, and they did. So they went into this game thinking, right, we're going to do everything and make sure we have a conservative game in terms of play calling to not have any turnovers. If we don't turn the ball over, we don't lose. Simple as
Yeah.
that. And I believe the Falcons will have that mindset for this game. They've got the players on the ground to deal with the run game, or to the cold weather. Sorry, they've got the O line, so that I think if anything, that will be a good thing for them. Playing in the colder conditions. I don't see the coaching staff at Atlanta being the right fit based off of the players that they've got at their disposal. They should be better than what they are or what they have been for most of this year, but I think they'll have enough to beat the Jets, which I don't like to say because I really like their head coach. He was originally my call for coach of the year before it started. Obviously, Rodgers going out had a huge impact on that. He's actually in the 21-day window now to return, which I don't really get. Doesn't make much sense to me, but we'll see if it's all for show. But Falcons win.
I hope the Jets continue to lose because I don't want to see Rodgers back this year.
I want to see them lose, get a higher pick, and utilize that pick with Rodgers. Get a better O-line.
Rodgers recovering this quickly it's either insane or it's a lie.
Yeah.
Like he must have not really torn it because it took Kevin Durant 18 months to come back from Kevin Durant.
And what's Rodgers on right now? About 90 days, 97 days.
97 days for a near 40-year-old.
Yeah.
I think it's a bad move if indeed he did tear it and he is planning to come back. I hope Jets continue to lose and we start again next year.
Actually, they don't even get any pick. They don't get their first round pick next year, do they? Did they give it up to Green Bay? I'm trying to think. I'm not sure what they get if they have a first round pick in 24.
I feel like there was a condition that Rodgers had to play
a certain amount of games,
75% of snaps.
Okay,
and it
fine.
Second, so maybe I'll have to check that.
Yeah, so if they do have a first round pick, for me, it's a no brainer. Like, just make the best out of a bad situation. You're not going anywhere this year, even if Rodgers is back. He's not the Messiah who's going to come and fix every issue. No. Use that top 10 pick. Get an elite O-lineman. There are some good O-linemen coming out of the draft this year to protect Rodgers better because you saw what it was like already in the first few snaps against the Bills. They were already all over him.
And all season with Zach Wilson.
What's going to change? It doesn't matter who's at quarterback. So sort that O-line out. Otherwise, keep Zach Wilson at quarterback. It doesn't matter if it's Rodgers or Zach Wilson. So, yeah. But anyway, on to the next game. Arizona Cardinals at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh dear.
Tricky, horrible game.
It's a tricky, it is horrible. The thing I look to here, though, is the Cardinals could not stop Jack in the running game last week against the Rams.
Yeah.
And the Steelers, who were in their first game without Matt Canada, managed to generate over 400 yards of offense for the first time since before Matt Canada. Matt Canada never had a day of 400 plus yards offense.
Shocking, isn't it?
Insanity. I do love this running back tandem at the Steelers, though, because it was starting to look like Jaylen Warren was really the number one, and then Najee Harris decided to
Great game.
Well, watch this. Like, when he gets going, if he gets going like this, he's not the fastest back, but he is physical. He will take the toll on a defense that will then allow Jaylen Warren, who is your, Energizer Bunny with 3 rockets up his bum, to take advantage of a defeated defensive line. So I think it's the perfect tandem. I've been a big fan of Deontay Johnson for a long time, and we've seen with the Steelers many diva receivers in his era, if you like. You think of right now, George Pickens has had a few moments. Chase Claypool.
The infamous 84.
The infamous 84 Antonio Brown. I'm blanking on someone else even. But I was really, really concerned with what I saw.
Martavis Bryant.
Martavis Bryant. I was really concerned with what I saw this past week with Deontay Johnson basically giving up on that fumble. I'm like, have you checked out?
Mm-hmm.
I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt with the sideline row with Canada and I think maybe even Minka Fitzpatrick against the Browns. But that really, is a red alert. Like, is his head in the game? I hope it is because he's been a great professional for this team. He did apologize. It didn't look very sincere. We'll see.
Yeah.
I just wonder where the future for Kyler Murray lands. And I'm wondering if this is almost like an opportunity for Kyler Murray to present himself to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a bit of a chance to showcase what he can do because he very well could be available come the off-season.
If not.
And if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm not sure if I want to continue this path with Kenny Pickett if there is a better option available. Now, Kyler Murray is by no means perfect. He has his flaws, but he is dangerous. Like, he is a difficult quarterback to plan for. We've all seen the memes of him running like a 3-year-old child, but it's real. I mean, it's real. He's small, he's fast, therefore he is elusive.
Exactly.
He hasn't got a team around him. The Cardinals cannot stop the run, and the Steelers have found a running game. The Cardinals' offensive line, good luck this week. This feels like it could be one of those TJ Watt destruction games. Good luck trying to double him. I'm rolling with the Steelers. The spread is, I believe it was 5.5. I don't know if it's moved.
5.5.
I wouldn't feel confident with that, honestly, with this Steelers offense. But I am going to go with the Steelers. They are at home. This is going to be an ugly game. They love ugly games. Steelers win.
Yeah, you're right there. A few things. Again, West Coast team coming over for the 6 p.m., 1 p.m. game. Not exactly on the East Coast, but over close to the East Coast. Dome team going to be playing in the elements at Heinz Field. And I just picture this game of Kyler Murray running backwards towards his goalpost more often than not. He's going to do. I would love to get odds on Kyler Murray, like how many yards he will run around in this game. It'll probably be over 200 yards of running. Probably. I don't see how Steelers don't win this game. It's a really good time to be playing Arizona, and you're playing at home. Pittsburgh win, definitely for me. So next up, Miami Dolphins at the Washington Commanders. Who are you going with?
Talk about Jekyll and Hyde. This Commanders team, you just don't know what you're going to get, really. I said that this is kind of upset season, and this is a potential upset, I think. This is definitely going over. Whatever the over, I think the over might be 49.5.
I'll tell you what the over is. It is right. 4. Oh, hold on, I've lost it all of a sudden. Go on, carry on, and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
49.5. Yeah, you're right.
49.5. I love 49.5 in this game. The Dolphins' defense has improved. This is in Washington, not the best field. Oh, this is a difficult one. How could I possibly back the Commanders? But they're one of those teams that just turns up every now and again.
True.
What I will say is I actually didn't like the enemy's play calling against the Cowboys. I
Mhm.
get at the start of the game that you want to be conservative, you want to, you know, just not make a mistake. But they got to the third quarter and they were still in it. They were basically down maybe 10. I think they
Mhm.
were down 10.
Mhm.
They were driving the field and they get to 3rd and 1. And it was at that point that the enemy said, right, we're going to throw the deep ball. And I get the concept of it, right? Everyone's going to throw it deep on when they need 1 yard because they think defenses are going to sell out for the run or whatever. But you the the probability of you getting that right, it is lower than just getting the 1 yard.
No room for
So,
error.
yeah. So they throw it, they play action it on 3rd and 1. Howell doesn't hit McLaurin. I think it was pretty well guarded. And then on 4th down, I think they did a run out of shotgun, and that does my absolute head in
Yep.
every time I see this on 4th and 1. Why can you not just sneak?
You've got to
Like,
basically run for 6 yards to get the first
yeah,
down. Why?
exactly. Why are we doing this? And you think the amount of the time in the time that the ball gets snapped, the defense aren't just standing around waiting for you to get to the line. No, they're crashing. If you don't want to sneak with your quarterback because you're worried about him getting injured, get someone else to sneak. If you've got a fullback, get the fullback to sneak. If you don't have a fullback, get one of the tight ends to sneak. Come on, like it's 1 yard. And then after that, I think the game broke for them. The score got
Actually,
so out of
quickly.
hand.
Yeah. Very quickly.
Yeah, the score got so out of hand, and it really wasn't that type of game. I didn't think
No.
so. It's difficult. I mean, Sam Howell is going to throw for 300 yards probably in this
Of
game,
course. Yeah.
but will it matter? Will it matter? Tua does have a mistake in him. This is a really poor Commanders defense, though. Like the Cowboys didn't really show that
No.
last Thursday. I think the Dolphins will, though. High scoring game, but which way is it going to go? It's going to go the way of the Dolphins, I think.
Yeah.
I said it's upset season, yet I haven't picked an upset yet. There's just something telling me that the Dolphins know that the finish line's in sight for this division, and this is a great opportunity for them to get one step closer.
Yep.
Tyreek Hill needs roughly 620-ish yards to break Megatron's receiving record, and he is on a tear. Like, he is motivated to get that.
Yep.
Dolphins win. But the -8.5 spread. No, I'm taking the Commanders all day.
Yeah. With Buffalo losing last week, they've now got a 2-game lead and an extra game to play. So that could give them a 3-game advantage with 5 left.
Wow.
So looking at their schedule coming in, who have they got? They've got the Titans at home. I like
Lovely.
that. They got the Jets at home. I like that. Then they've got the Cowboys, Ravens, and the Bills, which are 3 hard games to finish. The Cowboys and Ravens, Cowboys at home, Ravens away, and home against the Bills. For me, if they win the next 3 games,
they've won the division. They could lose all 3 of them.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So there's a lot of importance for that reason. Not just that reason. I'm going with Miami to win. Again, I always put emphasis on the time of year and the climate, especially for warm weather or dome teams. Miami did play in New York only last week, and they actually dealt with it better than I expected. They played pretty well. So going to Washington, again, it's due to be some light drizzle on Sunday, so I don't see it being a major issue. It's raining in New York when they played. It'll be a bit hypocritical of me putting Miami number 5 and then say I'm not going to feel that they beat Washington. Yeah, upset season has started. I don't see this being one. It probably will be now to eat my own words. But it's the problem with upsets. You never see them coming, do you? It's I see it like you said, a high scoring game. Miami seem to be maturing as a team. They're not there yet, but they are growing, and they're growing in front of our eyes. It's actually really cool to watch. They're going to have too much for Washington. Be a good game to watch, good fun game. Not necessarily fun from a defensive standpoint, but fun from an offensive standpoint. So Miami win, and that will get them 2 games closer. Or then there'll be 2 games away probably to win and guarantee a number 1 spot in the division, which, yeah, good on them. Good on them. Next up, now here's a close one. Denver Broncos at the Houston Texans. Great game.
Great game. This is probably the game that I will watch in the 1 o'clock window.
Yeah.
You've got the Broncos riding a 5-game, or is it a 6-game winning streak now? I think it's 5.
Yeah, I think it's 5.
Would you believe it? Russell Wilson now has the best touchdown to interception ratio in the NFL, 20-4.
Hold your hands up, Sean Payton.
Indeed.
We were all a little bit too fast to question his return.
Fair play.
Good on him. But yeah, sorry, go
on. I don't know. Well, obviously Wilson's had some fumbles as well, but the fact that it's 20-4 touchdown interception ratio shows much improvement. He's taking care in the passing game, and he's delivering touchdowns. It's not a case of he's not throwing. Like 20 is like 5th. I think only Mahomes, Josh Allen, Tua maybe are ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
Tua
had about 7 against him, I think. So yeah, that he's already a third of the way.
Overinflated.
He was over a third of the way there just from one game.
But the Broncos defense, they got rid of Randy Gregory. I believe they got rid of someone else.
Yeah, good.
Who was it? But in any case, they have turned it around. This is a good defense now. Like, it's got promise if you add a few more pieces next year. But they've turned it around. They've become, opportunistic. They get a lot of turnovers. And added with the fact that the offense is not turning the ball over, I can imagine their turnover ratio in the first 6 weeks versus the last 6 weeks must be night and day. Yeah. So this is a really dangerous team. It is in Houston. I did not like what I saw from the Texans defense last week. A lot of penalties, costly penalties on 3rd down. Mm-hmm. For the most part, I liked what I saw on offense, but again, CJ Stroud was running, like the protection wasn't there. But I can't go against my man CJ Stroud right now. I'm riding with the Texans. I'm gonna say that they bounce back this week. They lost on a field goal attempt that hit the bar. So that I would have loved to have seen overtime in that game. That was a great game.
Yeah.
I'm rolling with CJ Stroud this week.
Okay. Oh, this is actually, it's not tough. Actually, yeah, it is. For me, this is the toughest game to pick this week. Yeah. At the Texans, I love everything D'Amico Ryans is doing. I love everything CJ Stroud is doing. Tank Dell looks different level. even the Texans defense, up, they made some mistakes last week, but they've actually been
They've
pretty
improved.
solid. They've been pretty solid.
Yep.
And the Texans O line, especially in the first half, did a pretty good job of giving time to CJ Stroud. Not throughout the whole game, that's for sure. But I remember watching the game and thinking, how long are you guys going to take to get to CJ Stroud? Like, admittedly, he's hard to get to. He's moving around. But the O-line do a reasonably good job, especially bearing in mind he is moving around and being aware of where he's going, etc.
That touchdown, Rob, that first one where he looked like he faked sort of going right. The rusher came from the left, and then he spun round to the left. And this is the point about Lamar Jackson. You look at the footwork on that play and the poise he had to then throw it to Dell. It was just not a rookie standard.
That's one of the benefits where Lamar Jackson is. I don't know how tall he is, but he's definitely taller than CJ Stroud, I would imagine, like by a good few inches. And it just seems like CJ Stroud's center of gravity is considerably lower than Lamar Jackson. It looks like that in a way, just in terms of how he moves and makes it easier for him to get his feet planted. But yeah, I love so much about this Houston team. I'm really excited if they can get a good draft this year. They can be really dangerous sooner rather than later. The Broncos team, I'm still struggling with. They've got 5 wins in a row, and they're difficult to beat. They shouldn't really have 5 wins in a row. They shouldn't have beaten the Bills. But again, shoulda, woulda, coulda. They won at the end. I like Sean Payton a lot. He's done a great job with that team. I like Russell Wilson being a Seattle Seahawks fan. I love what he's done for the organization in the past. And Sutton, Judy, running backs. They've got P. Ryan, I believe, and Williams in tandem, which pretty much most teams are doing now, a committee at running back, and it seems to be working. I trust Peyton more than D'Amico Ryans at this stage. But Peyton is a special coach, so that's no knock on D'Amico, because I've said from week one that he's the coach that I've loved watching how he's coached this team. And I'm sort of prolonging this because I'm still trying to think who I'm going to pick, and this is one I would almost class this, even though it wouldn't be an upset, but I'm viewing this as a game where the Texans are expected to win.
They are the favorite.
They're 3-point favorites. So I like the Broncos +3. If I think the Texans likely win. What I've learned over the last few weeks, I bet with the Jags last week, I didn't enjoy it. It's not nice betting against CJ Stroud, because every time he's got the ball, you know something is very likely going to happen, and usually not in your favor. I am going to roll with the Texans. The Texans, I think, are just going to have a bit too much. I think Stroud is going to be the difference. The Broncos are greatly improved. And all credit to Peyton, but they're not there yet. They are still traveling. They are the road team. And I just see CJ Stroud making a few more plays when it matters down the stretch. He's not a guy that will take well to losing, especially a divisional game. You can bet your ass he was probably in the facility at something stupid 4 or 5 a.m. on the Monday morning, looking over game tape, working what can be done for this week. Probably not a good time to be playing him. But we'll learn a lot about him. Again, everyone's been singing his praises, and rightly so. How's he going to come off of the loss now? I imagine it's going to be favourable for him. I imagine he's a winner. But we'll see. But I'm going with Texans. Next up, we've got the Carolina Panthers, the very well-run Carolina Panthers against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah, I'm sure this will be one that takes a lot of explaining to justify. Who you got, Jake?
What a terrible game this is. It really is. Yeah, I'll keep it short. I don't think the Panthers are going to get a bump from firing Frank Reich. I think the Buccaneers are due a win.
Yep.
It was disappointing last week. I think I did back the Bucks last week.
Yeah, we both did.
Yep. I think that the Buccaneers will bounce back. The Panthers are lacking talent. They hung in against the Titans, but it's probably more bad Titans than anything. So, simply put, not a strong opinion. Buccaneers win. They'll do enough. They can stop the run generally. I don't think there's enough in the passing game of the Panthers to exploit those weaknesses. So, yeah. Baker to bounce back, Mike Evans to go over whatever it is again. He is so close to his 10th 1,000-yard receiving season. No one has ever done it. Not even the great Jerry Rice has done that 10 years in a row. So all credit to Mike Evans for his consistency and availability. Bucks win.
I am going simply with you. Tampa Bay win this game. There are two things I will say about this game because I don't think there's any more that needs to be said, and they're both about Carolina. I think Carolina will be worse after sacking their coach because I don't think they've been playing at that level because of the coach. I think it's because of the owner. And one thing I've noticed with the Carolina drives, it actually is a good thing for them. Maybe not so much going forward. They do tend to keep drives going. They tend to get like quite a few first downs on their drives with 0 points. And that's something that doesn't make much sense to me. So I would blame that on the OC. But yeah, Tampa Bay win. Right, hold there 1 sec, mate. Right, guys. Yep. I'm just finishing off my. Come and sit in here when you come in. Put the TV on or something. I've only got another 10 minutes, and then Kate's sleeping, so try not to make too much noise. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns at the LA Rams. Who are you going with?
Now, this should be a matchup nightmare because it is the Browns' defensive line versus a not very good Rams offensive line. Myles Garrett got dinged up last week, didn't he?
But his shoulder. He had something wrong with him. But yeah, he wasn't the same player last week, that's for sure.
I assume he's playing this week. I haven't seen
whether he'll be as effective.
I just don't think it's enough for the Browns, though, because DTR, it's too early for DTR to be in this situation. What I will say is,
I don't think he's playing. Is he playing? I know he's in the concussion protocol. Last I checked.
Oh, of course he is. Wow. So I
don't even know who's going to be the quarterback.
It's TJ. What's his name?
Not yet.
TJ Walker.
Oh, Walker. Yeah.
Yeah, they were actually
could be better.
Yeah. The thing is with the Rams, I mean, Stafford lifts them up when he plays. He does lift them. It's not a great roster. Well, outside the receiving core, I do think the receiving core is very good.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua,
even the running back. Kyron Williams was very good last week.
Oh, yeah, the running back who feasted again for the second time this year against the Cardinals.
He looks good. I've not watched him play that many times. I actually properly watched that game on Sunday, and yeah, the gaps he was finding, they weren't even that big at times, but get just the juke here. Yeah, good to watch. And has he been out for most of the year? Was he injured at the beginning of the year? I don't know his story, his background.
Because who's the normal number one running back for the Rams? I guess it's him now.
Must be
because they traded Cam Akers.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a difficult one, but I think the Browns are starting to run out. a little bit. So I'm going with the Rams at home.
Yeah, the fact that it's in LA.
Yeah, if this had been in Cleveland, I'm taking Cleveland all day
Yeah.
long. But
So this is what this is a 9:05 or 9:25 game.
it is, yeah.
If Garrett was fully healthy, the defense on their own could potentially win this game. But what we've seen in the last few weeks without Watson is this team, if the defense doesn't score, they're going to put up about 12 points max.
Yeah.
That'll be them done. I don't see that being enough to beat the Rams in LA. Not with Puka Nakua, not with Cup, who has been a bit. I think he's a bit banged up.
Yeah.
He only had maybe 2 catches last week. He had a lot of time off as well. But I see Stafford, McVay doing just enough. You put up 2 touchdowns, you win this game. Even a touchdown and 2 field goals, you win this game. So I'm going to follow suit. They've got coming off the highs of a comfortable win against Arizona last week. That will be enough for them to beat a traveling Cleveland Browns team and to get, I think, 2 wins on the bounce. Next up is the big game. It's the big Sunday night game that we've all been waiting for, the Super Bowl, or the should be Super Bowl of 2023-24, the San Francisco 49ers at the Philadelphia Eagles. Who are you picking, Jay?
Thank you to the schedule makers for making this a 9:25 game in the UK. Thank you. It feels like these 2 teams have been on a collision course from day one this season. December the 3rd was circled on the calendar as soon as the schedule came out. 49ers at Eagles. And now they are the 2 best teams in the NFL right now.
Comfortably.
I cannot see any other outcome in the NFC Championship other than these 2 teams being there. The Eagles have come off a very emotional, a very physically taxing game on Sunday. It went to overtime. The 49ers had a fairly routine win in Seattle. They've had 10 days to prepare for this one. The Eagles just find a way, it feels like, every week, no matter what, no matter how many chips are stacked against them, they've found a way every week. The only game they lost to the Jets, Jalen Hurts threw that game away. They should have won that game. They were 1 first down away from winning the game.
Even without the first down, they probably win the game.
Yeah. They punt, they win the game probably. Yeah. This last week against the Bills dominated for 3 quarters. But what they didn't do was they didn't completely execute and put them away. James Cook dropped a walk-in touchdown. Bass, who's been a very reliable kicker, missed 2 chip shot field goals. You're talking, at least 13 points there. They should have been out of sight. And I guess my question is, if the Eagles start the way if they're off to a slow start again this week, like they were against the Bills, like they were against the Chiefs, this 49ers offense will not let them off the hook. This 49ers offense will stamp on their throat and put them away quickly. Mm-hmm. I think the Eagles will. This is a big game. This has become a mini rivalry in a way. It's not a divisional rivalry, but there's a lot of back and forth between these 2 teams. A lot of respect. They both know that each of these teams stands in each other's way to make the Super Bowl this year. But the Eagles continue to play at a B level, and their B level is better than most teams' A+ level. But their B level is not better than the 49ers' A+ level. and the 49ers are playing at an A-plus level right now. I think that the 49ers will be highly motivated to win this game because of what happened to Brock last year. It's only one game at the end of the day. Like, whoever loses, we're going to meet again. I'm saying it now. We will meet again in January for a place in the Super Bowl. But for this week, I'm rolling with the 49ers to win in Philadelphia. I just think they're playing at a higher level right now. The Eagles, if they show up with their A-plus game, fair enough. They could win the game. But I'm not sure you can just find that. And they haven't shown me that they've found that yet this year. That's what's scary about them. Mm-hmm. They're winning at B level. I think the 49ers win this game.
Okay. All right. Who do I go with? I mentioned quite a lot about both teams on my top 5 teams earlier. There's not really much more to add about both teams. I will be interested to see if they can get the tush push against Byrne and Hargrave, the grave digger. If he does, they could be digging a grave for a certain Hurts to go into if he tries to do the tush push. So we will see. Yeah, I know some people want to be saying fly Eagles, but I am going to say fuck Eagles because the 49ers are going to win this game. I look at their schedule. They must mentally be exhausted. They played the Miami Dolphins, Washington in a divisional game, 38-31, Dallas Cowboys, divisional game, 28-23, Kansas City, Super Bowl replay, 21-17, and then Buffalo Bills, 37-34, which they should have lost in overtime. That is got to be emotionally exhausting. All of these games, close games, that they're constantly wired for every minute of these games. You're not going to see it now. If I'm a 49ers fan like you, Jay, quietly I'm thinking there's a very good chance this team's burnt out come playoffs mentally, because you can't put your finger on this stuff, but they are 10-1, and these games that they're playing, they're not winning by 30 points. They can't rest, guys. They can't mentally just let it go a little bit, which the 49ers do. The 49ers, the Bills started the game, they run the ball pretty well against the Eagles D, didn't they? Had quite a lot of runs, which I weren't expecting. What do you think the 49ers are going to do then if the Bills manage to get a run game? They haven't played well. The Dallas defense actually is similarities. The 49ers D are going to be just as challenging, if not more challenging in terms of the front seven and away. But the offense are on a whole different level. What if the 49ers get ahead? The Eagles won't get the ball enough times because it'll just be run that clock down, and they will be able to keep that clock going. I love the 49ers in this game. I think this is a matchup. The more I think about it, you're right. The Eagles, you can't just turn B to A like that. It's not going to happen. So I'm going with 49ers to win. If the Eagles play their B game and the 49ers play their B game, I still think the 49ers win. I don't think the 49ers, I don't see it being that big of a gap. I don't see that the Eagles that we've seen, if we're classing the last 5 weeks as their B game, that is a team that the 49ers can beat with their B game comfortably, in my opinion.
Can you believe this? They're 29th in passing, pass defense. That's a real shock.
It's been since week 1 we've been calling it, and you guys have so many weapons you can utilize, and that's even before we go on to the running game. So, and you've got the O-line that can match up as favorably as someone can against a very good B line. But their O-line isn't as good as it has been. It's still a very good O-line. I'm not sure if Lane Johnson will be back. If not, that's going to be a huge miss because I know he missed the Bills game, didn't he? So that'll be a huge factor. It won't make a difference to my pick. I'm going 49ers to win. And to be honest, I actually like them covering the 3-point spread as well. So yeah, that's my pick. I think this could be a more comfortable game than people think, and I mean comfortable from a scoreline perspective. I think it could be like a 7-9 point win that feels closer, but ends up being relatively comfortable in the last few minutes. So 2 games to go. Kansas City Chiefs at the Green Bay Packers. Who you got?
Wow. It is Mahomes' first game in Lambeau Field.
Yeah.
The spread is 5.5. Now, the Packers defense
Gone up to 6. The spread, just so you know.
Gone to 6. Okay. The Packers defense looked good against the Lions. I don't know what to make of that, to be honest. I really don't, because I just don't. I'm sorry, but I don't rate this defense. They've not had Jair Alexander either. That's the most surprising thing. But then the biggest weakness for the Chiefs is their receiving core.
Yeah.
I don't think the Chiefs cover necessarily, but the Chiefs, I think, will do enough to win this game. This is a bigger test for Love. It is again on the national stage, but this Chiefs defense is far, far better than the Lions defense. And I do think Love turns the ball over this week. I guess it kind of depends what Matt LaFleur does. If he sticks with Love letting loose, he's gone through his development stage, the training wheels are off, we're just going to throw it now. Excellent. Would love to see that. I think they'll be good. There'll be some bad, and we'll have a good game. If he goes back into his shell and he's sort of like, well, we'll just run these pick plays, screens, short 3-yard passes, the Chiefs will win this easily.
Yep.
But I'm gonna base it on the fact that I think that they've opened the offense up now. They're letting Jordan Love play properly now. He'll make some plays. He won't make enough. I think Mahomes will. I don't think the Packers defense is as good as it looked last time out. And I'm going to say that Kelsey has a big game this week. The Green Bay will not double him. And so I think Kelsey will go off. They'll do just enough on the ground with Pacheco, stamping his feet into Lambeau Field. The definition of angry run. Chiefs win.
Yeah, you touched upon it. Looking at the Detroit game on Thanksgiving, that Detroit defense isn't the Kansas City defense. They're not going to get the time. The receivers won't be as open. And it'll be probably a welcome to reality to Jordan Love. Again, I like what I've seen the last couple of weeks. And like you mentioned, it looks like the training wheels are off. But I trust Mahomes considerably more than I trust Love. I think Mahomes has better pieces around him on top of that. So you give me a better quarterback with better pieces around. The climate's not going to make a difference. Kansas City are used to playing in them conditions. I think Kansas City win. I think they will cover the spread. I wouldn't bet on it, but I think they cover 6 points as well. I see this being between 9 and 11 point win for Kansas City. I agree. I think Kelsey and I think Rice, they will make sure Rice gets his fair share. Like I said, this is preparing him for a month's time in January, etc., to be ready to make receptions when needed, when the pressure's on. So Kansas City win for me. And the last game of the week is the Cincinnati Bengals at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who you got?
It's going to be the Jaguars for me. Like I said last week, I think the air has been taken out of the Bengals. without Burrow, this team can't really go far. Browning, yeah, he'll do a job, but not a good one, not a good enough one. It's sad because I'm a massive fan of Jamar Chase, and he's kind of wasted his season now. But the Jaguars are rolling. I would like Doug Pederson to just fully trust Trevor Lawrence now. We don't need to get too conservative when we've got a lead. Just let Trevor Lawrence stamp on the opponent's throat and say, we're going to crush you. We don't have to tiptoe over the line every time because you've got the weapons.
Yeah.
You've got the run game. You've now got a really good defense as well. But most importantly, you've got the quarterback, and he is delivering. So, yeah, Jaguars win this game. The spread is 8.5. I can't really trust the Jaguars yet because of the play calling, but they win this game. It could be about 7, I think. Mm-hmm. They should cover the spread.
Yeah, they should.
But I'm just not sure yet. There's still some conservative play calling going on. But yeah, no doubt in my mind, Jaguars win this game.
Yeah, unfortunately we saw the Bengals for what they are without Joe Burrow last week, and it was a shame because I think all of us before this season started thought they were one of the best contenders, top contenders for the Super Bowl if they stayed healthy, and they looked a shadow of the team that we all expected to be seeing come December the 1st, earlier in the year. It's a shame because we won't see this team made up like this probably again in terms of the wide receiver core. I think T. Higgins will probably be gone at the end of the year. I don't think they'll keep him, and that's going to be a hard guy to miss because he will get paid. There's no doubt he'll get paid elsewhere. Have to go with the Jags comfortably. They're at home. They've got good defense that are going to get to the quarterback. And they've got the offense that will put up a fair amount of points. I think they win. I think they do cover the spread. I think they should cover the spread, depending on how they want to call the game. But yeah, I see this being these sort of games the Jags need to win. The Texans are going to be close on their tails for the rest of the year, with a very favourable schedule. But this will be a Jags win. And that's it for our Week 13 picks. So then to finish off, let's just get a couple of bets for this week. You got any in mind? Anything that stands out for yourself to start off with?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame because this is usually my Thursday night football slot. But I do have a good one, I think. And it comes in the Washington-Miami game. The Dolphins have a high-octane offense. The Commanders have a terrible defense. But Sam Howell puts up yards. It is quite simply Tua and Sam Howell over 300 yards, 9-2.
No way.
9-2.
Who's that with, Jay? Just to make sure I get in on that.
I think that's with Skybet.
That's going. Right. I know what I'll be doing when we finish this.
It will change. It will change.
Yeah, I bet it will. 9-2. It will be after I place my bet on it later tonight. So I've not had the time to have a look at any value bets like that. But if I look at an even money bet, looking at money lines, I really like the Bucks at home against the Panthers at -5.5. The Bucks are that team that sort of beat up on the weaker teams and struggle against the better teams. This Panthers team are going to struggle after the sacking. I don't see any question in that. I don't see a bounce back after the firing of the coach. And the Bucks have the weapons to absolutely annihilate them. They're at home. I love the matchup. 5.5 points. It could be 7. I'd still take it. So I'm going to go with that as my first one. Tampa Bay -5.5. What's your second one?
Yeah, so I mean, I was going to stay on the same game because I do feel like Dolphins Commanders over 49.5 will be automatic. But just to switch it up,
Yep.
and this one is, I feel like this one is sort of low hanging fruit, but I haven't gone to him this year for best bet. So it is Christian McCaffrey, one or more touchdowns, 100 plus total scrimmage yards. It's only 5-4, but there's a reason it's only 5-4 because it's automatic
It is.
every week. He got, like you always say, Rob, like in the first quarter, he'll just subtly be on 60 total yards, probably with a touchdown with 3 quarters to go.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm going to go for it this week. McCaffrey, one touchdown or more, 100 or more total scrimmage yards, 5-4.
Okay. So mine is similar to yours in sense of McCaffrey is going to be involved. I'm going to go with a double. I'm going to say that we will have a certain Mr. Mike Evans over 65.5 receiving yards.
Automatic.
It, based off of previous years, you would definitely think that. And McCaffrey over 71.5 rushing yards. For me, I love all of that. And you know what? If you want to be a little bit greedy, I would add Derek Henry over 61.5 on that player prop against the Indianapolis Colts. The concern with that 61.5 is the Titans could get down early. So you'd want him to get it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But I would go, if you want on the safe one, I think McCaffrey, they're going to run the ball. Again, based off of the Bills being able to run the ball, you've got to think the best rushing team in the league are going to be able to run the ball. And then the best rusher on the best rushing team in the league going to be able to run the ball. 71 yards isn't that much in this day and age for a rusher. And 65.5 for Mike Evans, that's about 3.25 catches usually for him in a game. Could be one. Wouldn't surprise me if it is one. And you can be sure the ball's going to be thrown in that game. So that's the double I'm going to go with. It will get you about 2-1 there or thereabouts. So yeah, some good value there. I've got a few others I'm going to have a look at, and I'm sure that you've got a few others that you'll look at over the next 24 hours, Jay, that we'll put up online on our Instagram social media accounts for you guys to keep an eye on. But that's it for the Week 13 podcast of Fourth and Gold. Paul, we hope you're having a good time in Thailand. I know you got some things that you're going to be adding before the games start on Sunday, so we look forward to seeing that. Thanks for your time, Jay. We look forward to seeing you all same place next week. Take it easy.
See you next week.
Nice one.